Very good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Market Research Talks, our series of research talks conducted by Mrs. Mihirani Disanayak. Today, she decided to make a small change to the series of research talks by inviting another resource personnel from Survey Research Lanka. She is Michelle Ratnasute. She is working as the director of market research in Survey Research Lanka. Michelle is graduated in marketing and management from Eindhoven University in Australia with double major, and she is an MBA holder from Cardiff Metropolitan University, UK. Not only that, she is a CIMA qualified management accountant by profession. After her graduation, she started her career in financial research as a management accountant, and she shifted to branding and marketing due to her passion towards building brands and business. She has over 10 years of experience in the field of marketing research and spanning across diverse industries, including FMCG, fashion, retail, technology. Her research experience with Survey Research Lanka in both quantitative and qualitative, with a fair exposure across social research and market research. She is one of the best market researcher. Therefore, I believe she is again one of the best market researcher as Madam Mihirani. Without delaying much, I hand over the session to Miss Michelle.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for that lovely introduction.
Come.
Right. Should I share the screen and start off?
Yes, you can.
I think you need to stop sharing the screen, Doctor, for me to... right, got it.
Doctor, before Michelle starts, hi guys, sorry for missing the last week's lecture. I had event to attend which was not, I was not able to avoid that. For the quality, we have in our plan with my discussions with the doctor, we have thoroughly gone through the process of quantitative research. Michelle will cover most of the part of qualitative research today. And we are planning to do a quantitative desk research analysis and report writing sessions in the next couple of sessions. How the sessions would go today? Today, it is actually a very interactive session we should ideally have to have, because it's a qualitative, in a qualitative research lecture, we can't, just talk and wait. So be prepared to be interactive. And while Michelle will take you through the, the most important parts in a qualitative sessions, whenever you join the private sector, how you can use qualitative research and when you can use qualitative research and all that we have spoken about. When I feel like stopping Michelle and asking a couple of questions for your involvement, I will do that due diligently, Michelle, and take the session forward. And some of the things that you are going to talk about, we have discussed as well. Those things you can swipe through and go to the depth of qualitative research part.
Sure, sure.
Okay. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's actually a pleasure to do this session with y'all. I've heard quite a lot about the students in this class, and I heard that y'all are pretty engaging as well. So I'm also excited to do this particular session with the group of students here. Right. So as Ms. Mihirani said, she must have taken you through the quantitative study in detail as to what it's all about and what you could do in a practical scenario in a corporate environment. All that must have been done. So what I'm going to do today is to touch upon qualitative. you would have anyway heard on the surface level as to what a qualitative research is and what do we do in it. So what I'll do today is take you through the difference between qual and quant, and also in a practical corporate environment, how can qualitative research be done and how it will help people like us when we actually start working. Okay, right. So to start off with, since Mihirani said that you all are a very engaging group, I thought let's start off with a quick activity, right? So in the screen, you can see 3 icons, and I'm pretty sure all of you in class must be familiar with it: WhatsApp, Facebook, and TikTok. So what I want you all to do now is quickly click on the chat box on Zoom and send it across to us. Which of these apps do you like the most? Or rather, which of the app that do you like the most to be used on your day-to-day scenario? Okay, so I'll give you about 2 minutes. If you all can quickly send us which app that you would use very often or you would like the most to use, that will be great.
Yes, guys, you can start sending onto the chat box quickly. I can go back to my usual practice of reading names if that is more convenient.
They don't have to talk now, they just have to send the name, I think.
Okay, WhatsApp, Ruchika. Come on, guys, hurry up.
I can't see the chat box.
It's coming in, Michelle. You can.
Right. Okay, got it.
WhatsApp, WhatsApp.
It can be what you like the most also, not necessarily what you use the most. Right.
I don't see Sumudu has sent a reply. Ah, you have, right. Okay, I think Neil.
Yes.
There you get a
yes, right.
Yeah,
Right.
go ahead.
So while I actually count the number of WhatsApp and Facebook and all of that, can you all quickly again send on the chat as to why you said WhatsApp or why you said Facebook, that you like it?
Just one line.
Yeah, just one line. It can be in any language you want, English, Sinhala, Tamil, doesn't matter.
English, anything. Hope you heard the question. Why do you like that app most? User friendly and popular. Don't type this reason once again by anyone else. New reasons, please. Ramanaka has given a reason. Easy to use. Easy way to contact all of my friends. It's useful to sharing information with others easily. Very easy and can quickly send messages. It is very easy to use. We can engage easily with. It's easy to use and we can give information very quickly. Most of my friends are using it. That's all. More convenient way to chat with others, easy and can send videos as well. Quickly contact person. It's very easy to use and it's very quickly easy to use and easy to share information because it's more convenient and interactive to me and I don't waste my time uselessly. Yes, Buddhira has not replied. She is. Umesh is there. Sumudu, Sanduni.
Right? Or are the answers still coming in?
Yeah. They have. You can proceed. Most of.
Right. So I first asked you what the app that you like the most, and then I asked you why would you like it, right? So that is the basic and the simplest difference between quantitative and qualitative research. So out of the answers that you all sent, close to 95% of you all said that you all like WhatsApp or you all use WhatsApp the most, and only the balance 5% said that they use Facebook, and none of them said that they like TikTok, right? And when I asked and probed in terms of the reasons that why you would like this or use this the most, I got various list of reasons saying easy and convenient, quickly can contact people, has a lot of features, easy to share, very interactive, not a waste of time, etc. So the first question I asked, and I found the answer as to out of this whole class, how many are using or liking WhatsApp versus Facebook versus TikTok, that is basically quantitative research. And when I moved on to ask the reason behind why you would prefer those things, that is what is qualitative research is all about. So quantitative research is trying to quantify and find answers to questions, whereas qualitative research is finding reasons behind the answers that we found through the quantitative research that we basically did. So that's the fundamental difference between what a quantitative research versus a qualitative research is about, right? Let me also do a quick another example. Now you could see the picture on the slide, right? So if I ask you to how many red cars do you see in this particular image, you would simply start counting the number of red cars that is in the image, and you will tell me there are X number of X cars in this particular image that I've showed you. So that is what quantitative research is. But if I ask you, would you like to have or like to buy a red car? And if you say yes, and if I ask you what are the reasons for preferring a red car, and if you say no, I don't like a red car, and if I ask you what are the reasons that you don't prefer a red car, and if I probe into it and have a discussion with you in terms of finding out the reasons behind it, that becomes a qualitative research, right? So quantitative research is mainly about quantifying quantifying the answers for certain questions that you have in terms of certain issues or problems or opportunities that are in the market, whereas finding out reasons behind the existence of such issues, opportunities, or problems in a particular company or in a particular scenario is where qualitative research comes into play, right? So having said that, on a broad context, these are the main differences between a quantitative research versus a qualitative research. So quantitative research is mostly used to measure things, to confirm on particular answers that you already have found, or to justify and validate answers that you already have found, or even to establish a particular problem that is already there. Now, for example, to measure and assess is what I did in the first question. When I asked you what is the app that you like the most, I tried to measure the number of people who actually liked each of the app. When I said to confirm, is basically, let's say, when most of you all said that you all liked WhatsApp, and I asked you for the reasons behind why you would like WhatsApp, and you said it's easy and convenient. And if I count the number of people who have said easy and convenient, and if I quantify your answers also, that's where I'm confirming the reason behind why WhatsApp is the biggest reason behind why WhatsApp is the most liked app among you, right? And to justify and validate. Let's say Ms. Mihirani said WhatsApp is the most liked app, whereas I said no, Facebook is the most liked app. So to justify which one has actually said the right answer, when I did the exercise with you, quantitative actually helps us to justify whose answer or which solution that we already have is the right one. And of course, to establish the inquiry. So sometimes companies may come and say that they already have a problem, but quantitative research will actually help us to find out whether it is actually a problem, and if it is a problem, how big of a problem it is. Now, let's say automobile company comes and tells me, you know what, red cars are not very popular. There are not many red cars in the market. So as a result, it's very hard to sell red cars. So that's a problem this particular company is having, let's say, right? So through quantitative study, we need to first establish whether is it actually an issue that is prevailing in the market, and if so, how big of an issue it is, right? So the simple example that I did, by understanding the number of red cars out there in the market, I will establish the fact whether red car is a popular color among people who buy automobile, or whether it's not, right? So to establish a problem also, and to size whether it's a bigger or a smaller problem that we need to look into also, quantitative research can be used. On the other hand, right, no matter how much we justify and measure all of these issues and opportunities out there, it's always good to understand the reasons behind it, understand the psyche behind it, understand the reasons behind certain actions customers do, right? So that's where qualitative helps us. So to explore, to investigate issues, to understand a scenario in a better way, and of course to expand and understand further reasons of an issue or an inquiry, also we use qualitative. So these are the fundamental differences between quantitative and qualitative. If I were to give another, maybe a relatable example for you guys, let's say if you start thinking, how many girlfriends did I have in my college time? And if you count the number of girlfriends you had, that will become quantitative. But if you start thinking, why did I break up with most of them? That becomes qualitative. So that's like a very simple way of showing the difference between what's quant as well as qual, right?
Surely
So
they understood that.
Sorry?
Surely they understood the last example.
Right. So in the quantitative, when you, Ms. Mihirani, would have taken you through quantitative, you would have understood to do a quantitative study, you often use a tool to collect data, so which is basically questionnaires, right? So in quantitative studies, you use a questionnaire which are mostly structured. It can be fully structured, semi-structured, unstructured. I'm pretty sure you all would have gone through all of that process, right? So when collecting data under quantitative, you stick to the questionnaire. You have fixed questions, you have mostly fixed answers. So you ask those questions, you pick the answers that are listed out, and then you stick to the questions and the questionnaire that you are given, right? But qualitative is in contrary or in totally different to a quantitative. Qualitative is more of having a very casual chat and a free-flowing discussion with the respondent that you're talking to. So it doesn't have a very structured way of asking questions and giving answers or picking answers, but it's more of like, you know, having a casual chat and trying to find out reasons from the person that you're talking to. again, if I were to give a very practical example, which you can relate to, is, let's say, quantitative research questionnaire is more like an exam paper. You have fixed questions and you just need to write answers to those fixed questions. But qualitative research is more like having a casual chat with your friend or the person next to you, and trying to, like, understand each other and find out different interests and opinions and reasons behind things that you do. So that's the difference in terms of how you do a quantitative versus a qualitative. But whether you do quantitative or qualitative, the ultimate objective is you need to find answers for the research objectives or the research questions that you have of a particular research that you are doing, right? Because from the point of generating a research brief and the research team getting on board to do the research, the main thing is to find answers for the research questions, right? Or rather the research objective of that particular study that we are doing. So whether you do a structured questionnaire and do quantitative, or whether you have a casual chat, by the end of the day, your discussion should have answers for the research that you are doing, right? So in order to do that, when you're having a very free-flowing discussion in a qualitative research, you need to ensure that by the end of the discussion, you have actually covered all the areas that you need to talk to in terms of finding answers for those questions. So even though we can't have a very structured and a structured or a very how can I say, very well-defined questionnaire like a quantitative study, in a qualitative study, we have something called a discussion guide, right? So it's not like the questionnaire that you would use for a quantitative exercise, but this is more like a guide, like a guiding note for someone who is doing the qualitative discussion, to make sure that by the end of the discussion, all the important areas of that research has been discussed with.
Michelle?
Yes.
Can you give me the sharing rights, please? I will share an example of a difference between the structured and unstructured that we spoke about quickly.
Sure, sure.
All of you can see the screen?
Yeah.
Michelle, you can see this in.
Yes.
Right. So as exactly what Michelle explained, quantitative, it is like an exam paper. One by one, if say yes to this, ask this question. If they no to this, ask another question. Like that, it flows like sequentially like this, one by one. There's no way that we ask the first question and the seventh question and come back to the second question and third question. It is a very in order, very structured conversation and filling into the given optional answers. අපි කතා කරලා තියෙනව නේද? මේ product එකක් taste එක කොහොමද? Extremely good, somewhat good, neither good, bad, somewhat bad, extremely bad කියලා උත්තර පහක් දෙනවා. We give options for them to choose. We actually lead them, not lead them, help them to choose an answer. We are not giving freedom to the respondent to give whatever the answer that they want to, right? So that is the flow, like this nice flow. In qualitative, as Michelle said, although we are using a discussion guide, it is just to guide the moderator to cover all the aspects that matters to the research objectives. So at the end of the discussion, we are sure we have covered all the information areas. That is the whole purpose of having this discussion guide. Discussion guide is like this. We have all the relevant questions that we should be covering in the discussion listed down in a paper, which is called a discussion guide, but there's no flow to it. How we ask. We can start from here and they go to this, depending on the answer that they are going to give, we can go to the last question and ask that and come back, because we need to have a seamless conversation, right? Without having disconnected conversations. Here sometimes it is disconnected conversation. We have a couple of questions. We ask the questions what we want to ask, researcher want to ask. Here, We ask the question what is relevant for the respondent based on the answers that they are giving. So that's how this is like the jumble up වෙලා වගේ. So එක question එකක් ආපුවාම ඒ question එකේ දෙන උත්තරය අනුව තමයි ඊළඟ question එක තෝරගන්නේ. So the discussion guide එක moderator or research එකේ ඔළුවේ තියෙනවා. These questions are there for me to cover. That's all the purpose of a discussion guide, to just to ensure that I cover all the areas, not to. Sometimes you don't have to ask some questions, because when you ask one question, the respondent would have answered for another question in the discussion guide also. So you are not going to ask all the questions as well, but ensure, as exactly what Michelle said, ensure information areas are covered. Sorry, Michelle, about it. I'm done.
No worries. You're still sharing me.
Yeah, 1 second.
Right. So yeah, so exactly like what Mihi said, a discussion guide is basically like tips and clues for the moderator to just have a guideline as to how the discussion, to make sure that in the discussion, all of those areas are covered, right? So usually someone who conducts a quantitative research, we call them an interviewer or an enumerator. But someone who conducts a qualitative discussion, we usually call them as a moderator. I'm pretty sure you must have heard about it before. Right, so just to get a better understanding on what a discussion guide is, let me show you a sample of a discussion guide. Right, so this is a discussion guide that we did for a study with an insurance company to understand why customers are moving out or lapsing out of the insurance policy that they have, right? So as you can see, unlike a questionnaire in a quantitative, this is not very structured. It doesn't have a proper question and answer flow per se, but it has statements and phrases just to remind the moderator to make sure that they need to cover these areas throughout their discussion with the respondent, right? So more often when you start a qualitative discussion, we sort of do an introduction and a warm-up session. So ekapatama, when you start and go directly into serious questions, the respondent might not feel very comfortable or convenient and very, how can I say, there will always be that nervousness and stress for the respondent to sort of quickly jump into serious questions and all of that. So as a result, like I said before, it has to be a very casual and a friendly chat. So we need to start up with more of an introduction, more of a warm-up session to make sure the respondent is very comfortable and very in a very easy position to give all the answers. So usually qualitative discussions start off by introducing the moderator. He or she would introduce herself, where she's coming from, what is this discussion is broadly going to be about, and we give the respondent the confidence, that you don't have to worry about whatever that you say in the discussion. This is just for our understanding, and so feel free to answer in any which way. So more similar to how a lecturer would do starting off a class. They introduce themselves and they always tell you to ask questions anytime you want and feel free to engage in the lecture and all of that, and then they take it forward, right? So the same approach when you do a qualitative discussion as well. So and once that is done, we get the respondent also to introduce themselves, and we start talking about the person's family, their interests and their hobbies, just to make sure that the person is comfortable enough to have a discussion with us. So like the image that Mihi showed, where the discussion, the qualitative discussion will not have a structured flow, but you have to try and link the next question from the answer that the respondent is giving, right? So as soon as the person introduces himself, you can't again quickly jump into the serious questions or the important questions that you want to ask. So from the answer that he gave or she gives, you have to slowly start coming closer to the information areas that you want to cover in the research. So in this particular study, we wanted to understand about their life insurance policy and why they have lapsed out of it, right? So as you can see, after the introduction and warm-up session, we are moving not directly and asking them, why did you stop paying your premium for your insurance? We move directly into that, but we more started off asking them, so what is the plan for your family's future? what have you done for it, any insurance that you have taken to have a protection or an investment plan or a savings plan for them, right? So likewise, we start off by asking about his introduction, asking about his family, and from there we slowly move into asking about family's future plan and his plan for the family and all of that. And then we slowly get into the topic of insurance. Then once you get into the topic of insurance, we slowly get into the topic of life insurance. And then depending on how the conversation flows, you slowly start asking the questions that you want to ask. So as you can see, the discussion guide also will show you how smoothly and seamlessly the conversation will be led to the information areas that you need to ask. So we start off with introduction and warm up. Then we move on to asking about understanding how insurance has come into their life as a future plan and a security plan and all of that. Then we slowly move on to asking about their experience with the current life insurance policy they have and what are the policies they have, how long have they been having, and we ask all what they want to talk about. So when you do these conversations, sometimes the respondent itself will start saying, "Ayyo, a policy nang wadak nahi appa, now I have lapsed out of it. I don't pay the premium anymore." Kiyala. Abi ahanda calling, they might come and tell the answer for what we want to ask also. So when that happens, you need to then quickly ask the related questions or the important questions that you want to ask, which will be there in the discussion guide at the latter part of the section, right? So even though this discussion guide has a flow to it, sometimes the conversation can go in different directions. But by the end of the day, you just have to make sure that all the questions in this discussion guide is in some way or the other is answered by the respondent, right? So
share the discussion guide on screen, Word document, if you have in your PC. This cannot see it properly. Now, this discussion guide, the way you see, lot of text making.
Oh.
So, can you remember what we discussed? Pro-T questionnaire. Who can remember the Pro-T questionnaire that we discussed and work on? We had do you use and how to what extent you you like the test and all that. Lassanata question numbers and very precise questions and answers was there. Now look at this questionnaire. All words. Loku document. This is just big document with all the specific information that you want to cover in detail is in the discussion guide. Cluttered like one A තියනවා B තියනවා C තියනවා D තියනවා E තියනවා දිගටම තියෙනවා. ඊට පස්සේ තව section එකකට යනවා. තව section එකකට යනවා. The task is the moderator should know entire gamut of information that should be covered. So the respondent won't know the depth of the conversation when we are starting. But the moderator should be the one who has entire load in her head. But without stressing the respondents, lassana katawa ඇතුලෙදිම we have to explore what it is, what are the natural answers. And upfront අපි කියනවා මේකේ discussion guide එකක් පටන් ගන්න කලින් we tell there's no right or wrong answers for anything that we discuss. We just want to know your opinion කියලා අපි පටන් ගන්නවා. අර warm up session එකේ. Right? The moment you tell that, because ප්‍රශ්න උත්තර වැඩසටහනකට ආවා වගේ stress වෙලා ඉන්න responder. එතකොට when we say that, all of them calm down and they are very chilled and have a conversation. If you don't have very chilled and calm down respondent, you can't get their responses, genuine responses. For example, Michelle spoke about the apps and all that, why that apps is used and all that. So all of you gave mostly the convenient of that. Now, Michelle wants to understand the different convenience level, what this convenient means from different people. Then, using this answer, she's moving into, okay, you mentioned it is easy for you to reach out to your friends. How that is easy compared to another one? So she is asking how do you feel about that convenience? And what that convenience look like? අපි සමහර වෙලාවල අහනවා ඒක දැනෙන්නවට මලක් වගේද මොන පාට වගේද. That is how we get into the inner mind and explore everything what is related to the topic. හරිද? So it is not completely not a question and answer session. It's a drama completely. It's a drama by the moderator. So moderator has lot of responsibilities in the group to make the respondent calm down and ask these questions. අපි හිතන්නකො මේ WhatsApp message use කරනකොට I feel like I am a different person කියලා කියනවා එක්කෙනෙක්. එතකොට අපි හනම් මොන වගේ different person කෙනෙක්ද? ඔහොම කියලා we want to get into the inner mind and understand all driving points for a behavior, right? There are practice for that preference. හරිද? So this quantitative research කෙනෙක් වෙන්න lazy actually, right? It is difficult to become a qualitative researcher, but it has to come from the, come from that we have to have that eagerness to ask questions and explore things and මැනික හොයාගෙන යන්න interest එක තියෙන්න ඕනේ. We have to have that interest and eagerness and curiosity when we become anyway a researcher, and in a qualitative research that curiosity should be having without an end. Then only you will get the right answers, right? So that's what we are trying to show from this lot of questions just to guide us and ensure that all the information areas are covered. Okay, I think Michelle, you can quickly show the Word document if you have. If not, you can proceed.
This is the Word document, Mihi. Which one are you?
On the slide, it is very tiny. We can't see.
I am sharing the Word document. You all can't see it, is it?
No, I can't see it. We can't see it. It's the slide is coming.
Oh, sorry. I thought, can you? Can you all see it now?
Yes, now it is there.
Oh, I've been sharing this for a while now.
sorry.
That's it. Okay.
Right.
So sorry about this.
Yes. Quickly flip through the
Right. So this is what I was talking about. So the discussion guide actually starts with an introduction and warm up to make sure that the respondent is very comfortable and at the beginning, right? So if you can see, we start off by introducing that we are from SRL, we are doing this research, and this is what the discussion is going to be about. So like me, say there are no right or wrong answer, which is there. And then we say, like, be as free as possible, speak to us in a very free-flowing manner. So we say all of that. And we introduce ourselves also. The moderator will introduce herself, and then we get the respondent also to talk about her name, age, and her family details and all of that, right? So then slowly from the family details, with whatever the answer the respondent is giving, we slowly take them to the next section, and we slowly start linking it to the information areas that we actually have to go to, right? So this is what Mihi was referring to as the document is full of words and full of verbose. So it's not as structured and simple and clear as a quantitative questionnaire. And most of the time when you have a qualitative discussion, like she said, the moderator will not be going through the discussion, looking at the discussion guide every time he or she asks the question or has a conversation. So it has to, this is more like a note for the moderator to run through before the discussion and keep it in their mind, and to have the free-flowing discussion. Maybe during the latter part of the discussion, you can slightly glance through to see whether you have covered all the sections that you are supposed to, right? So this is basically a sample of what a discussion guide looks like.
Let me ask few questions. Who are going to choose the qualitative methodology, data collection method for the thesis? Any students who have plans already? Yeah, anyone wants to, who was planning to do the thesis and want to choose or thinking of choosing qualitative? let me go back to my practice. It's easier. Arundika, what you're planning to do?
Madam, one is the quantitative one, which is the perceived risk regarding the perceived risks of the online purchasing.
Your voice is not very clear. Can you put into the chat box, please? Everyone, can you put into the chat box the what kind of research that you're planning to do quickly?
I think her connection is not very strong. That's why.
Yeah. Everyone on the chat box, quickly tell us what you, I mean, if you have not thought about, now you have gone through series of sessions. Now what your decision is? Which one? Quantitative one, Arundika, who else, others? Quantitative. It is not easy, as I told you, huh? Quantitative.
No, they're saying quantitative so that you won't ask questions. You started off saying you're going to ask questions, so I think they are being safe and saying quantitative.
අපේ කට්ටිය හරි ස්මාර්ට් නේද ડોක්ටර්?
Which is good. Very. They can survive.
අපේ බොයිස් ලා ටික මට පේන්නේ නෑනේ.
Chayani has said, I hope to do a research related to branding. That's very nice. So if you're doing about branding, qualitative part also might be interesting to add.
Yes, ma'am.
Dilum, I don't see an answer from you.
Yes, madam, I said.
දාන්නකො පුතා chat box එකේ voice පේන්නේ ඇහෙන්නේ නැහැ. Piyumi? I'll share some of the experience and Michelle is the best to talk about it. She is coming from the company side and now a researcher. She's been a user of research actually at the company and brand end. When we do a quantitative research, here you have to be very clear. Now you go to the company as an employee, join the company and commission a quantitative research to somebody, or you do a quantitative research and go and present it to your boss who wanted the research. Okay. Invariably he or she, your boss is going to ask, why that number is small, why that is 80%, why that is 20% also. On the other hand, if you are going to if you discuss internally, do a qualitative research and the agency also suggested qualitative research for a particular topic, and then once you have done it and go and share the findings with your boss, she or he might say, okay, interesting, what is the biggest problem? Qualitative quantitative numbers, right? You have to be very sure at the beginning that you discuss internally with your bosses, category managers and managers, and be sure that it is indeed qualitative or quantitative or both, that they need to solve the problem that they have internally. That's what, as I said, when it comes to Pro-T brief, they have given the quantitative study you have to do. Usually and ideally, user should not be giving the methodology to the researcher. Research is the doctor. You have the marketing side or brand side should tell us the problem for us to give the medicine. So ideally, the researcher should choose whether it is a quantitative or qualitative we should be doing to answer the question or marketing question or support the business challenge. හරිද? ඒ හින්දා මේ quantitative විතරක් කරන්න ඕන qualitative විතරක් කරන්න ඕන කියලා we can't. It, as Michelle exactly mentioned, it goes back to the research objective always. If research objective demands qualitative as well as quantitative both, then we have to choose both. Okay, remember that, because otherwise once you have taken effort and done everything, your boss will tell, well, why I don't understand why that is 20%, right? So you need to be very sure that internal understanding is there and you understand it very clearly, and then you do it due diligently to get into the right research and convince your boss at the end of the day. Yeah, Michelle.
Yeah, so even in your research project that you're going to do, once you do the quantitative survey and come and present it to Ms. Mihirani, she's going to ask you, why did this number come? Then you might have to have answers if your research objective requires that answer. So not only in a company scenario, even for your particular project, you might have to think whether in your Viva sessions or in your question and answer sessions, but there's a possibility that that will be questioned. So if you think it's necessary, then you have to add a small qualitative part to your research. And it's always good to have it also, because you will also understand better why certain numbers are coming out by the end of the study, right? Now, let's say in your class, by the end of this session, if doctor intends to have a feedback from all of you all to understand how many of you were satisfied with the class or satisfied with this subject, right? And she will, by the end of the day, she will have a number saying, okay, 100% of the students are happy or 50% of the students are happy. But she would want to know why the reason is, right? Why are you happy about the class, or why are you not happy about the class? What are the areas that can be improved, or what can be added during the next semester? So to answer all of those questions, you need a qualitative part to it, right? So that's how qualitative comes into play when we do research. So it's not very it's always a very supportive part that actually helps you find reasons behind things that are happening around. So it's always nice to include it when you're actually doing a research or a study. Right, so moving on, types of tools that you use for qualitative. So Mihirani said that this is an area that has been already taught to you all and you all are well aware about it. So she just wanted me to just on a surface level rush through this. Anyone in the class who can tell me what kind of qualitative research that we could do, or other, in a quantitative you can do using a questionnaire, you can do face-to-face interviews. You can send a link and ask the respondent to fill it on their own. So that will be like a self-filling questionnaire. Or you can take the phone and conduct an interview over the phone. So that will be a telephonic interview, right? So likewise, what are the tools that can be used in a qualitative research? Anyone in class who can help me out with it? Anything that we could do, or you all remember?
With Ruchika, qualitative tools.
Can I give a quick peep on the slide for you?
No. Ruchika. Where Ruchika went?
Yes, madam.
Again, qualitative tools. What are the qualitative data collection tools we discussed?
Interviews. A focus group.
Focus group discussions. Rashmi, one more. Another one. Rashmi, you're on mute. Sumudu, tell me another qualitative data collection technique.
In-depth interview.
In-depth interview. Very nice. Very good. තව එකක් කියන්න අලුත් ඒවා කිව්වා මම. New ones. Other than focus group and in-depth, what else? Anyone who knows other qualitative data collection techniques that he spoke about?
Panel discussions.
What are that?
Panel discussions.
Panel discussion.
Panel discussions, yes.
More like focus, yes.
Correct. Anything else? Qualitative. Supermarket shopper behavior checking techniques, what I spoke about. Miri?
Web survey chat.
Yes, it's chats, yes. And can you remember observations, workshops, METRAS example, clinics? Focus group ID one-to-one discussions will not be the most suited into the future with the changes and digital changes and all that. Okay, right, Michelle.
Right. So since you all have already gone through it in detail, there are a lot of tools that you can use, right? So I just listed out the most commonly used tools like focus group discussions, in-depth interviews, key informant interviews, ethnographies, observations, like you all said, panel discussions, workshops, etc., right? So I'm not going to go in detail on all of these, but just to glance through some of the usually or most prominent tools, right? So focus group discussions, you can have mini groups like you see on the...
Michelle slides, Michelle, on the screen. DG
Can't see?
DG is the one online.
What? Sorry. Can see now?
Yeah.
Okay, now it can be seen, no? Right. Right. So like you see on this slide, focus groups can happen in small groups like 3 to 4 people, which you see on your left-hand side, which are mostly known as mini groups. And of course, you can have larger groups like shown on the right-hand side. So like you all already know, ideal group size is more often 8 to 10 in a group. So you do focus group discussions to when you want to find out, explore different ideas or bounce off different ideas and find out different opinions from coming from different people with different perspectives and how one person's opinion will trigger another person's perspective and which will give you a different insight. So that's why we mostly do focus group discussions where we have a lot of people together or a combination of people together, right? Then like Mihirani said, we of course have IDIs and KIIs are also one-to-one discussions. These are personal chats that you have with a single respondent, right? So in-depth interviews and key informant interviews are mostly done when you want to understand or have a discussion about sensitive topics or very personal topics, or you want to have a discussion to understand in-depth emotional beliefs and attitudes of a particular individual or particular segment of customers, then you choose to do IDIs or one-on-one discussions per se. And of course, we have ethnographies and observations. So ethnographies are where you actually do observations in the natural settings of the target group or the respondent group that you're talking to. Now, for example, a natural setting of a class or a lecture is having it in class and the lecturer coming and teaching you. So that is what you guys are used to, right? So when in a natural setting like that, if someone else, myself or Mihirani or doctor comes and observes what's happening during a lecture between the lecturer and the students and how students are engaging and all of that. So that is something that is happening in a natural setting. And we also can do observations where we can create a different context or situation and then put the respondents in that and see how they are reacting on a different scenario or a different context that has been created. Let's say suddenly we say, okay, your class is not going to be indoors, but we are going to have it outdoor in the garden under a tree. So we have created a different scenario or a contextual situation, and then we want to observe how effective a lecture happening in an outdoor context per se. And then we observe the way you all behave, the way you all engage in the class, whether you like it, don't like it, through your actions and behaviors and expressions, and all of that will be observed. And I'm pretty sure Mihrani would have taken you through the supermarket example, which is more often a practical ethnography and observation studies that we do in a corporate scenario. So I'm not going to move on to it in detail. So I'll leave it at that. Right? So having understood the different types of data collection tools that you could use, so now we move on to the section to understand how qualitative analysis is done. So quantitative, you all would have gone through it as to how data analysis tables are drawn and data is generated and how you do the analysis in different stages and all. But in qualitative, it's quite challenging than quantitative, because quantitative is all about numbers and you need to try and understand what numbers say and and it's quite easy to measure things also when there are numbers are given as an answer. But here you have different people giving different opinions and answers and reasons, and you're trying to analyze it and find a concluding reasons by understanding all of the answers put together, right? So for that also, we have a step-by-step process which sort of helps us to make qualitative also practically possible for us to sort of analyze. So let me quickly take you through the process in which a qualitative study or qualitative exercise takes place. So once you get the research brief from the client, you will understand what the research objectives are. You all would have gone through the whole research process, so I'm not going to go in detail. I'll just tell what is relevant to the qualitative approach, right? So once you understand what the research objectives are, you will understand or you will decide whether you need to do a qualitative exercise for it to answer certain research questions. So when you confirm or finalize, yes, I need to do a qualitative exercise to answer certain questions, then you design, based on the objectives, you design the discussion guide, which we showed you all a little while ago. So once you design the discussion guide and get it approved by your boss and the client and all of that, then you find the right respondent or the target group for your research. And then of course you conduct the discussion. So it can be focus group, it can be in-depth observation, whatever the tool that is useful. It can even be a combination of tools, and then you do the discussion. Once you are done with the discussion, so what happens is when we do like a focus group discussion or an in-depth interview also, most of the time these casual chats are very long and very lengthy in nature. Or in other words, it's not as structured as a quantitative. So we talk a lot of other things also while we are talking about the research specifics as well, right? So it's very hard for a moderator to remember all of this and come and sort of do an analysis, unlike a quantitative where we tick the answers and we have the responses then and there sort of. So for that purpose, most often these discussions are recorded for us to listen to it after the discussion and then decode whatever the insights and information that we want to take. So this discussion is recorded. So once you have the recording with you, so let's say I'm the moderator and I've had the discussion and I've recorded my discussion, I'll go and give this recording to one of my teammates, another fellow researcher, to listen to the recording and to convert this recording into a Word format, right? So like in quantitative where we tick off the answers, this is the stage in qualitative where the discussion actually gets put on a paper or rather typed on a Word document, right? So that process is called as transcribing, as you can see in the process I've shown here, right? So when you transcribing is simply listening to the recording and then typing as it is in a Word document, right? And this Word document is known as a transcript. So in a qualitative exercise, that's how data or insights actually get recorded for analysis, right? So let me show how a transcript would look like for a better understanding. There you go. Can you see my screen? Do you all see a slide or a Word document?
No, Misha, slide.
Slides.
Right. Can you see the screen now?
Yes.
Right. So this is this is how usually a transcript would look like, right? So as you can see on the header section, you will get the details of when did the discussion happen, who conducted the discussion, how long was the discussion, and all of those fundamentals, right? So we had this discussion on the 15th of June. It was a 1 hour and 7 minute discussion. The moderator is Ms. Mihirani who has done it, and I was there listening to the conversation and being a part of it, and I was like a note taker who took the important specifics, and of course the respondent was one Miss Dindya, right? So this is the discussion that was recorded, and the recorded discussion has been transcribed into a Word format as it is. So all what the researcher has to do here is listen to the recording and write exactly what was spoken in the discussion in a Word document, word to word, right? So as you can see, M that is shown here depicts moderator, and here they have put the initial letter of the respondent. Otherwise, you will see we use the letter R for the respondent. So as you can see, the total conversation has been recorded as it is as per the discussion that we had. So usually transcripts are very long because a 1 hour conversation to be written, changed into a Word format is actually longer than life, as you can see. So likewise, all the discussions that we have will be recorded and the transcripts will be done by the team that we have internally. So this is how, in a qualitative exercise, the insights or the discussions that we do are recorded or converted into a written format.
If it is a focus group discussions, all respondent details, age, gender, names, and whether they are married, unmarried, all the details also in the transcripts, because when we are analyzing, it's very important for us to know their profile and match their profile with what they said. So like what Vindhya is the respondent in this discussion, which is a one-to-one discussion. If it is a focus group discussion, we would have the details of the participants in the 8 or 10 respondents that we had. I want to stop over here for a couple of minutes and ask any questions so far. Any questions? I'm very curious to understand where these respondents are found. You don't have that curiosity? Discussion guide and all that, but where are the respondents? Huh? Where do you think we are finding respondents? And how we would find the respondents? Hello? Chetana, what do you think? For us to have a conversation, we should have respondents, right? What do you think respondents, where we are going to find, how we are going to get them? මං හිතුවා දන්නවා කියලා ප්‍රශ්නයක් ඇහුවේ නෑනේ. චේතනා?
Chetana, where are you?
What do you think, Chetana? What do you think the respondents are coming from? How a researcher find the respondents? Michelle showed the location of the respondents. People are sitting around a table and all that. What do you think the process that we use to get the respondents?
Through the sample of the research, madam.
To the sample of the research. Can you elaborate that a bit?
Under the research, madam, we can get our sample.
Mm-hmm.
Under the sample, we can get about Respondents.
Respondents. Okay. Take the Proti example and tell me who are the respondents. If you want to understand why Proti product is not successful, what is the sample that you are referring here? Chetana?
Milk powder users, madam.
Yeah.
Milk powder users is the sample.
In the quantitative study, we go with the questionnaire to their house and ask the questions, right? Now in the qualitative, we need to get them into one place. Everyone is in a place. So how do you think we go about it? Can you remember the recruitment questionnaire that we worked on? Recruitment questionnaire for Proti. We used the word recruitment questionnaire to find the suitable sample for the study, right? So like that, in the qualitative research, also we use recruitment questionnaire or the respondent registry, and we provide the profile details who we want to be recruited for the discussion for another team to select from house to house, from a house to house discussion and bring them into a central location. Okay. For an example, as Michelle mentioned, if the discussion is going to happen in our office, it has to be a neutral office. It cannot be a branded place. If the project is conducted for Manchi company, it cannot be in Manchi company because it's biased there, right? We have to bring them into a neutral place. We have to provide transportation. We need to get them to a neutral and a comfortable place. Using a recruitment questionnaire, we do that. Then only the moderator would have with the discussion guide and do that all dance to warm up them and have the discussion, right? Okay, that is a question that I had and was wondering whether you know. Any other questions that you have up to now? Anyone? Quickly. No questions. Okay, we'll see with the assignment. Okay. Over to you.
No questions means me two things. Either they understood everything or they didn't understand anything.
The first one, Michelle. Don't worry, my student.
Right. Right. So once you get the transcripts done, after the whole process, so now let's say, like Mihi said, if we are doing focus groups, then all the respondents' responses also will be captured. If you're doing one-on-one, then we'll have only one respondent's answers on this transcript, right? So as you rightly said, you are talking to the sample, right? So you have a sample size that you need to cover even for the qualitative discussion. So there might be numerous number of focus groups or numerous number of IDIs that you would do. So for each of the focus groups and each of the IDIs that you do, you will have separate transcripts that will be done, right? So once you collect all these transcripts together, now what do you do with it, right? Now you have all the discussions you had recorded in Word documents. So what do we do with that? We need to do, with those transcripts only, we need to get to the next stage where we actually do the analysis. So analyzing qualitative information or data is called the content analysis, right? So what I'm going to talk you through as next is how do we actually analyze all of these transcripts and finally come to finding answers for the information areas or the research questions that we have. So moving on to what content analysis is about. Can the screen be seen?
Yes.
Right, okay. So how do we usually do a content analysis is, since it's a lot of information that is there across all of these transcripts, we actually initially put a structure, a very simple structure to find out different information from each of these transcripts. under the broad areas that we want to analyze, right? Just for simple understanding and better understanding, I'm going to take an example which all of you guys, all of the students should be able to relate to, right? So let's say I am going to do a research. I'm going to pick the same example I picked before. I'm going to do a research to understand your experience in this particular subject, right? And I'm going to find out what did you actually gain through this unit by the end of the semester. So that is my research going to be. So for my research, my target group or target respondents is going to be all of you all in class. And my sample size is basically going to be all the active students who have been following the classes throughout the semester, right? So I will come and have maybe IDIs or focus groups with all of you all. And now I have the transcripts with me with all of your answers in terms of the experience and the knowledge that you gained and what you think about the class and the subject and all of that. So for me to understand, what I'll initially do is I will put down the broad areas that I want to know in order for me to find out whether you actually thought this class was good, bad, or better, right? So for that, taking that into consideration, let's say, for example, I am going to put down the 3 broad questions that I am going to find answers through your transcripts. Let's say my first broad area would be whether you all understood the content of the subject, whether the content of this whole unit was understandable for you, right? So that will be my big question that I'm going to answer with this study. Then my next topic that I'm going to answer, or big insight that I'm going to find answers to, is that how useful was this unit for you in terms of for your final project that you're going to do in your final year, right? So that's the second one. So first one is whether you understood the content of the subject is what I'm going to answer. The second one is how useful you thought the subject was for you, right? And the third one that I'm going to answer is whether whatever you learn from this subject is going to practically help you all when you all go start your career or when you all in your work environment. So these are the big 3 broad areas that I'm going to answer, right? So when I'm starting off my content analysis, I am starting off with these 3 big things that I'm going to find out through your transcripts, right? So then I will read through all the transcripts that I have, and I will find reasons that you all have given for these 3 big questions. Did you understand the content? Was it useful? And is it going to be helpful for you all when you all enter the into your employment, right? So once I find answers for this, then those answers I am going to list it down under each of these buckets. So let's say my first question is whether you all understood the content of this subject, and then I get answers from all of you all saying, let's say one segment of students or part of you all are saying, yes, the content was very clear, we clearly understood it. And there's another set of students saying, not so much, we couldn't understand it to a great extent. And there's also another part of students said, to some extent, I understood certain sections, but certain sections wasn't very clear, right? So under this big question, those are my 3 answers that I have found out. Students who have clearly understood everything, students who have somewhat understood, and students who did not understand anything at all, right? So then I have the narrowed down answers for the big question that I had. So once I have those, then I'll further read into the transcripts to understand, okay, why did some of the students say that they clearly understood all the content of this unit? What do they mean by that they clearly understood that, right? So under that, I might find different answers, right? The content was very practical. It was very simple and clear. The slides were very readable, and it had a lot of examples. We did a lot of practical case studies in class. As a result, it was very, it was clearly understood by us, right? So likewise, I'll have further nuance level reasons as to why the students said that the content was very understandable. So then under that, I will list out all those reasons one by one. Then I'll move on to the next group of students who said, I did not understand anything at all. So now I want to further read the transcripts and see why these students think that the subject was not clear, right? So there might be answers saying like, since it was online throughout, I had connection issues. As a result, some of the sections I couldn't follow through. So it was very difficult for me, right? Or the other one, another reason might be maybe research is not my area of interest. So even though I wanted to learn about it, I could not understand some of the parts because I wasn't too involved in that particular unit. It was not my forte, right? So likewise, there can be a list of reasons for the students who said that they did not understand the content at all. Then I will move on to the third set of students who said, yes, some part of the subject was very clear and we understood it, but some part of it wasn't very clear enough. So then I further read the transcripts of those particular discussions that I had to find out what are the parts that they did not understand, what are the parts they did understand, and what do they think it needs to be done, right? So all of that will be listed out, right? So on the screen, I only have 3 levels to actually put down and show, but in a qualitative analysis, I can further take it to the most specific answers and narrow it down further and further to the bottom of the pyramid, like what I have shown in the slide. So I start off, so content analysis often start off with a general big bucket questions that you want to answer. And then you narrow it down with the specifics and go down to the ultimate, the most bottom, the reason that is at the bottom of the pyramid as much as you can, right? So once you do that, you list out all of this in this particular format, and then you kind of see what are the mostly mentioned reasons, what are the most important reasons. So in qualitative, unlike in quantitative, of course, you can make conclusions based on the mostly said reasons and the least mentioned reasons based on the number of counts. But sometimes, depending on the purpose of the research, sometimes even a single mention of reason also can be taken as an insight and can be worked on, right? So I am going to show you, an example of how we usually do content analysis. Might not be usually when we do a content analysis we use Excel sheets to actually put down thoughts and do it. So for easy understanding, I have taken a very simple content analysis sheet, but usually it will be more in detail than what I'm going to show you right now.
Michelle,
Yes,
there's a question in the
chat box.
Yeah, Mihiri has a question.
I can't see. I think it's a privately sent question, is it?
Is it? Yes. Sorry. So respondents through focus groups are respondents. Our respondents want to be knowledgeable about the certain topics. Not at all. Not
Yeah,
at all. Actually, there's a norm, Mihiri. In research, we when we are selecting the sample, can you remember in the Proti questionnaire, first question, advertising wala nang, media wala nang, research agency wala wada karanawa nang, that respondents we reject and terminate and not recruit. So like the same way, in a qualitative research, when we are recruiting, as much as they don't know about research, that is the ideal case. They should not have, should not have, as in, they can have knowledge, but it is not a requirement for them to have a research area knowledge at all, because all of us in the universe won't know research. Just we want to understand their opinion. So when they don't know research, that's where the neutral opinion can be captured. Okay.
Yeah. So if you take the example that we were talking about itself, Mihiri, like, you don't have to know research if I want to come and have a chat with you to ask whether you like the class or not, right? So it's like Mihirani mentioned before, so it's more of a very casual chat. It's only the moderator will know that I have to find answers for all of these research questions and all of that. But the respondent is just going to have a casual chat like how he or she would have a chat with her friend, right? So definitely not necessary to have any subject knowledge. So, but we have interviews like key informant interviews. If we want to speak about a specific industry or specific specialization and to understand about a specific industry level nuances from an industry expert, then yes, of course, then that question, so for those kind of discussions, you can pick a respondent who has the subject knowledge of the particular industry that we are trying to understand, but not necessarily need to have knowledge about research per se, right? So what you all, can you all see the screen with an Excel sheet, or is it still the slide?
Excel sheet we can.
Excel sheet. Okay, nice. Right. So this is a very simple way in which we do content analysis. So the first row that I'm highlighting in yellow here. So this is where we have captured each of the respondents' answers, right? So from the transcripts, we read through and take insights and put it into this Excel, as you can see in this Excel sheet. So the broad level questions that I was talking about, like, you know, the broad level questions or broad level insights that I need to answer, that is what you see in this column A, which I'm going to highlight now in maybe red, right? So as you can see, I have put the big bucket questions here. Impact of the program or the feature that I'm going to talk about, or that I spoke of. The reasons for having no impact, suggestions to improve, impact on women employment. So for this particular study, these were the big broad questions that I had to find answers from the transcripts. So I put the big buckets onto the first column, and then I read through each respondent's transcripts, which will be on different Word documents. And for each of these questions, I will read the transcript, find the answer, and copy paste it or type it in my own words in these particular cells. Right? So as you can see in this study, we have spoken to actually 28 respondents. And from all 28 respondents, we have read the transcripts and plugged in the reasons, what they said or the answers they gave for whether they thought the program was impactful. And the answers have been put in the cells. You can see that some of the cells are empty. That means this particular respondent, who is number 18, haven't actually given an answer for that particular question, right? So likewise, for each of the big buckets, we will read through the transcripts and plug in the answers here, right? The reason why we have numbered the respondents as 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 28 is to ensure the confidentiality of whom we spoke to. So in research, I'm pretty sure Mehrani would have spoken to you all about it in detail at the very beginning. Confidentiality plays a huge role, and we give the confidence to both to the respondents at the discussion itself that whatever they say will not be taken and shared with anyone by their name or by their details. So as a result, as research firms and as anyone who does research should always ensure that confidentiality is maintained to a great level, because otherwise they wouldn't have said and been very open with us in sharing their thoughts and views, right? So that's how a simple content analysis is done. So if I want to break it down into further specifics, I can further add columns and then break down the answers and find out what and what have been said under each of it, right? So this is just to give you all an idea as to how a content analysis is done. So once this is filled, what will happen is now the researcher takes this Excel sheet, who is going to do the final report, which might be a presentation, which might be a Word document report, right? Whatever it may be. So I will take this Excel sheet once the whole thing is filled. Now when I'm doing my report, what I'll do is, okay, so my heading, one of my sections under the report is to give the answer. What is the impact of the feature, whether there was an impact of the program or there wasn't, right? So under that section, I will glance through all of these 28 responses, and then I'll find out what are the biggest reasons for the program having impact, and why did the respondents think that the program was impactful, and all of this. By reading across through all these 28, I'll find the most said reasons and the least said reasons and all the insights on that. So likewise, For each of these big buckets, I will run through all the respondents' answers in a very summary format, and I will find out the conclusions and the output that I have to put in my report, right? So that's how a content analysis is done. You want to add anything to it, Mihirani?
No, any questions? Any questions?
Right.
Questions?
So I'm also going to show you all a sample report that we have done based on a qualitative study. So remember when I showed the discussion guide, I said this discussion guide was done for an insurance company in order to understand why customers are lapsing from the policy. So this is the presentation that we did, or the report that we did, to go back to them and tell what are the reasons, right? So when we usually do qualitative reporting, or for that matter, any research reporting, these are some of the standard ways in which we actually flow through it. He want me to take them through the flow, or just show them the slides so that they'll have an idea?
Show the segment, customer segmentation and the the verbatims to say.
Right. So we have the business concern, we put the research questions, and we show them what kind of customers that we spoke to, right? So in this particular study, we spoke to 3 different groups of customers, right? The first group that you see here with the lady with a frowning face is a segment of people who have gone out of their life insurance policy between 2.5 to 3 years. Then we also spoke to people who have gone out of their life insurance policy from 3 to 4 years. And then the third segment we spoke to is people who have lapsed out of the life insurance policy during a period of 4 to 5 years, right? And we had altogether 40 discussions with them. And as you can see, the demographic column shows the profiling details of these 40 people we discussed. So they all fall between the age of 20 to 60. The premium is 50,000 to 200,000 per month, and both males and females were there. More also married and single respondents were also there. So that gives an idea of who the people we spoke to, what are their occupations, which is on the next column, and of course, how do they pay their premium. So this is how we sort of show the profiling of the customer segments that we spoke. So when you're reporting back, you need to actually show what you basically planned initially and what was achieved by the end of the study. Sometimes it might slightly vary due to certain contextual or situational scenarios like time constraints, budget constraints, or even things like COVID and all of that can have an impact. But more often, you need to ensure that what you proposed at the beginning, or what you put in your proposal at the beginning, should be achieved by when you're reporting back as well, right? Just to show certain ways of how we report qualitative findings, right? So this is one big bucket that we analyze to understand what is the reason why people actually take life insurance policy, not moving out of it, but at the very beginning, why do they actually get into life insurance policy? And as you can see, how we have actually put the reasons as a cluttered format here, right? So agents push, as an investment, as security protection. So these are all the reasons that we have found from the transcripts as reasons why these 40 people have taken the life insurance policy. And we can't stop at just putting the reasons. We need to also justify, right? And say, why did we say agent push is one of the reasons for them to take life insurance policy? So in quantitative, you can easily put a number and say 70% of the people said it's through agent push. So that's how you justify it, right? But in qualitative, you don't have a number to put there to justify it. So for that, what you do is you put verbatims. You put the exact words the customers told or the respondents told to prove that this is one of the reasons why they got into life insurance. So if I were to take an example, let's take agent push. One of the respondents have said, or some of the respondents have said, a known insurance agent or bank officer convinced me or pushed me to buy this policy. right? So we are proving the fact that agents push was the biggest reason for getting into life insurance by showing verbatims, which is basically the actual words or responses given by the customer. If I were to read another one, let's take as an investment plan or savings. They have customers or other respondents have said, I wanted to save some money for my children, so I went for an investment plan, right? So in a qualitative reporting, how you justify the reasons and insights that you found is through something called verbatims, which are basically presenting the actual statements made by the respondents, which are case studies. So proving through different case studies is how we report qualitative findings. I'll show you another slide also to emphasize on how we report. So here also, depending on the different reasons why customers moved out of life insurance policy, we have segmented them. Frustrated customers, irritated customers, unattended customers. So likewise, we have come up with different segments based on the reasons they gave for moving out of the insurance policy. Right? So when we are going and presenting this to the client will ask, what made you conclude that these are frustrated customers? How can you say that, right? They'll definitely question us. So in a quantitative, again, you will have a number to show, but here you don't. So what we do is we show case studies. This frustrated customer group, we show a case study or an incident to say, this particular customer has said that no one has the interest to look after us. They are only worried about the business. No one even cares what is happening to us. So life insurance policy is very frustrating for me. So likewise, using cases and verbatims, we actually justify the different statements or the insights that we show to our client.
Any
Right.
questions? Any questions?
I will take you through the slides slowly. If you all have any questions, please feel free to ask. Actually, qualitative is very interesting to do. Sorry, me?
A couple of minutes more to go. Any questions you have, you can actually ask now. We shall move on to the last slide.
Right, sure. Right, so basically understanding all of that, if I were to sum up what qualitative research is all about, is to simply put, it's about unlocking the customer's mind, right? In quantitative, when you go and ask them questions, they will give you the first top of mind answers or the first response that they actually more often get to pick out of the list of answers that you give. But in qualitative discussions, you go deep inside their mind and try to unravel their unconscious mind, right? So like the picture shows here, more often the answers you get are the stereotypical answers, the obvious answers that I would always get, right? If I ask you, did you enjoy this class? You'll obviously say yes. That's the most obvious answer. Then the next level is, you will, just to make sure that everyone is happy, you will say yes, it was good, it was interesting, and all of that. So that's the self-esteem responses. You don't want anyone to think bad about you. But the more and more comfortable you get with me and we become more like a friend, then you will come and tell, Michelle, you know what? Yes, the class was interesting, but then, we could have done this, we could have done that. So that's the heartfelt response. And if I further get close to you and make you comfortable, you will actually tell what you honestly felt about the whole session, right? So that's the beauty of qualitative research. Layer by layer, it kind of unravels the deepest thoughts and emotions and your views of what you think about certain things. So that's where qualitative research comes. So that's pretty much sums the session for today.
And
if you have any questions.
It's a hard task that Michelle did to cover almost everything that you could learn from a 6 months course about qualitative.
Yes.
Very simply with examples. And if you have any questions, you can ask. And if not, Doctor, we can wind up.
Let them to ask some questions, ma'am.
Yes. අද කවුරුත් වැඩි කතා කරෙත් නෑ. අපි කතා කරමු නේද සචිනිත් එක්ක වගේ. සචිනි? Hi.
Sachini, where are you?
Yes, madam.
Yeah, and how did the qualitative went for you?
The session is very good, madam. We
What
can
did you learn
understand
today, Sachini?
the qualitative things, madam.
Tell me one thing you can remember about qualitative research. One new thing you studied today.
The discussion guide, madam. What are the things including?
Okay, good. Ruchika,
Yes, madam.
what did you study today?
Qualitative is finding reasons to the answers we got from the quantitative research questions. And new thing I found is this transcribing.
Transcribing part was one new thing you found. Yeah. Navoda? Anything new you learned?
Discussion guide under the qualitative research.
You did learn. Okay. Ko kollo tika nෑනේ doctor.
I'm busy.
Dilum හැමදාම අහු වෙනවද මන් දන්නේ. Dilum?
Yes, madam.
How are you? What did you learn today?
About the transcribing and content analysis.
Very nice. Very good.
Do you have any questions, Dilum? Clear the?
Yes, madam, it's clear.
Okay, good doctor.
Yes, ma'am.
I think we can, yes, wind up, and if they have questions, they can always write to us.
Sure, ma'am. Dear Madam Mihirani and Miss Michelle, on behalf of the Department of Marketing Management of Sabaragama University of Sri Lanka, I must really thankful for sharing your research knowledge and experience with our students. I don't know how to thank both of you because I know how busy y'all are, and despite of your busy schedule, both of you found time to educate our students. And not only you, ma'am, I must thank there is a person who is always behind the screen.
Yes, observing us always.
He always support us. He's none other than the chairman of Survey Research Lanka, Mr. Neil De Silva. He always there to help Sabaragama students. Thank you so much for being such a great character, sir. Thank you so much for the participants as well. We will meet again next Saturday at 7:30 p.m. again to continue our research talks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a
Thank
lot,
you,
doctor.
doctor.
Thank you and have a good night.
Yes, Neil.
Hello, doctor.
Yes, sir.
I must thank you. In our days in campus, there wasn't lectures in late night. You all organizing that. I think your students should appreciate. Or talk to 40 years before who graduated from campus and ask whether they have even afternoon classes. Now you all having late night. I'm very happy with that, and your contribution to the future of the country. I'm very happy.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Neil.
Okay.
Thank you, students. Bye-bye. See you next week.
Bye, ma'am.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, madam.
Okay, you're welcome.